You're a wedding officiant or a bride or groom and you're looking for sample readings for your wedding ceremony and you want it to be easy and you want it to be painless and you're just thinking, give me the sample reading already for my ceremony. Well, I'm here to say, skip the sample reading, and I'll tell you why. My name is Mark Allen Grollo. I'm a full-time book-solid wedding officiant. Now, before you reach through the screen and try to grab me by the throat and tell me that you've heard a lot of beautiful wedding readings and ceremonies in your time and that's why you're looking for one, I get it. The operative word here is sample readings. Stop looking on the internet. Sample readings don't add anything to your ceremony. Remember that scene from Wedding Crashers where they slide into the pew and they're just making bets on which sample reading is going to come up, 1 Corinthians or Colossians 3?
1 Corinthians. Double or nothing, Colossians 3:12.
Now a reading from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind.
Well, when officiant says, and now a reading, typically that's what's going through the mind of every guest. There is a better way, but first of all, here's why I think you need to ditch the sample reading. 3 reasons. First of all, sample readings aren't personal. I conduct an in-person wedding ceremony planning session with the couple that I'm marrying, and sometimes when we get around to that part after going through all the elements, they say, can you recommend any sample readings for us? And I look them in the eye and I say, no, I cannot. Now, they're taken aback a little bit because they expect an officiant to comply with that. Oh yes, I have a whole pile of sample readings here that I recommend. But I tell them, listen, if I am recommending your wedding reading, we're doing it all wrong. Everything about the wedding ceremony needs to be about the couple. I tell their story, I make sure their vows are exactly as they want it, I make sure we do everything exactly as they want it, and it's about them. So why would we pull out a wedding reading from a can and trot that out in the ceremony? It adds nothing to it. Then I tell them 2 more things about sample readings. The next thing I tell them is, no one remembers sample wedding readings. One of our primary aims when we're aiming to be a great wedding officiant is to make the ceremony memorable. People already remember the day they got married for their whole lives. So we want to make the ceremony live up to that. We want people to remember how they felt and as much as they can about the ceremony. And I promise you, they will remember laughing and crying and all the feels they felt. But one thing they will not remember is a sample reading. Think back to weddings you've attended. Can you remember the reading about the meaning of love by Faulkner that was in 2010, read by Aunt Mabel? No, it's just going to be blotted out of your memory. And so let's not waste any time with it, especially when every element of the ceremony is to be memorable. That's what we're going for. And the next thing I tell the couple about sample ceremony readings is that a sample reading will actually interrupt the emotional flow of the wedding ceremony. Now, as I mentioned, when we take so much time building a memorable ceremony and crafting it with all those personal elements, there's going to be all the feels. There's laughing during the story, there's crying during the vows, the kids come down the aisle and there's lots of awe and people are just feeling so immensely. And then now time for a Shakespearean sonnet. And you can almost hear the record scratch. People go, oh, okay. And sometimes I almost feel bad for Aunt Mabel. I don't know why her name keeps coming up, but she has to come up after all the crying and laughing and read this thing, and everyone just kind of nods their head, and then she goes and sits down. Let's not do that to Aunt Mabel. Let's not do that to our guests. Another reason why a sample ceremony reading I've seen just doesn't work in the ceremony, because it interrupts all the emotions that are constantly going up and down, and we're bringing people on that ride, and there's no reason to hit pause for a sample reading. Now for the good news, a personal, memorable, emotional reading can be the cherry on top of an already incredible wedding ceremony. And so I do recommend wedding readings if they meet that criteria. And here's how to do that. First, wedding readings should mean a lot to the couple. Anything we read, take the time to stop the ceremony and read out, should mean a ton to the life of the couple. And so, back to the couple who asks me, Mark, do you have a sample reading? And I say no. I do say, so if you want a reading, take a few days, think about some piece of writing that means a lot to you, that has meant a lot to you growing up or to you as a couple, and let's read that. and it'll really complement everything else that's going on. I'll give you an example of a time that went really well. The bride said that, she went away, she came back with, oh my gosh, you know what? My father used to read to me, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and we talked about my future together and things like that, and so I'd really like him to read Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Well, I tell you, he came up in the ceremony, he read Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. I get goosebumps even remembering it. There was not a dry eye in the place. Who knew Dr. Seuss could make a room cry like a baby? That's exactly what happened. Why? Because it was emotional, it was memorable, it was personal to the bride, and of course the groom figured into that hugely because here he is, part of the journey, part of the places she went, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was not a sample pulled out of a can, it came about because she thought about it, and she chose that specifically out of her history. So when the wedding officiant chooses the reading for the couple, it can be nice. People will say, well, that was lovely. When the couple chooses the reading, it can absolutely blow everyone away. Number 2, I would say, is wedding readings should be relevant to the person doing the reading. So it's very common for a couple to want to use the reading time to include somebody in the ceremony who means a lot to them. And that's excellent, but like I said, if we're sending up Aunt Mabel and what she's gonna read is gonna land with a bit of a thud, then it probably was best not to include that at all and just leave her be. So if we are bringing someone up to read, I think it should be at least relevant to them. You probably want to ask the person reading to explain why this selection was made, either chosen by the couple, why it means a lot to them, or maybe the reader has written it themselves. I've seen this as a gift to the couple, somebody with some poetry or writing skills or a blessing that the reader personally is giving to the couple as a gift. That is incredible. Again, it's not a sample, it's specific to the reader, it fits the reader, and then it meets the criteria of being personal and emotional and memorable. And third, wedding readings should heighten the emotions of the ceremony. When choosing a wedding reading, it's best to ask, how does this contribute to the emotional journey that we're gonna be on for that half hour or so? Because the processional, again, will give us all the feels, the story will have us laughing, the vows will have us crying. How does the reading fit into this journey and enhance the flow of emotions that we're gonna feel and not bring it to a dead halt? So one thing I like to do when I'm building a script for a wedding ceremony is to see each element as a block: the processional, the vows, the ring exchange, the story, the reading, and kind of mentally assign an emotion to each one of those blocks. So the processional makes us feel what? The vows make us feel what? The ring exchange makes us feel what? The story makes us feel what? The reading makes us feel what? And of course, the answer is not supposed to be dead inside. That is the wrong. We want the answer to be the reading made us feel bursting with love for this couple, or just crying, laughing, something. So if you can label it like that, then you know you're on the right track. We're trying to build the most memorable ceremony ever for this couple, and so I implore you, stop looking for the sample ceremony and just ask the couple to think back in their history, discover something about them, a reading that means a ton to them, something that'll give us all the feels, and you won't be disappointed. It's a night and day difference. What are your thoughts on sample wedding readings or wedding readings in general? I'd love to hear it in the comments. I always read and respond. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I'm always putting out a new video, how to officiate a wedding. Talk soon.